Hello! Today I'm having a look at Avenger 2's modulation capabilities. In particular, a mod envelope that can let you do things like this. So what is going on here? I'm using a modulation envelope that is kind of unique. Generally, any mod envelope will just run through from beginning to end. And if I release early, the travel through the envelope just stops at whatever point I release. But Avenger has an interesting trick up its sleeve. If I use a different mode, sustain release jump, I have a release point. So that means that the travel stops at the release and holds at that value. Now I'm going to turn up the release so we can actually hear it travel back up. And if I play a very short note, the travel jumps to the release point. So it's behaving the way a typical amp ADSR would. So what does this mean? It means that you can assign one set of effects to just the sustain portion of the ADSR and a separate set of effects to just the release portion. Of course, you need to make sure your release is long enough for those effects to be heard. So in this patch, I have a SUS-RLSJUMP mod envelope that activates its target upon the release of the notes. So it's basically an off-on switch, off over here and on here. And I have it activating a step sequencer. The step sequencer appears to be on, but as soon as I press the keys, it's going to shut off. And when I release the keys, it's going to be on. So let's test that out. So I can hold these notes however long or short I want to, and the step sequencer is always activated upon release. Let's try this with some drums. I also have a mod envelope that does the opposite. It's on here and off here. And it's modulating the quantum effects here, the global mix, and turning that on when I play the notes and shutting it off when I release. If I wanted that to be a little bit less stiff sounding, I could have it gradually go down to 0. I also have a third modulator, and that raises the level of the oscillator upon the release so that we can hear the release a little bit more. So going back to the first example I played, I'm using that same kind of mod envelope, the SUS-RLSJUMP, and I'm using it to activate a number of things. One is the reverb, another is the vibrato, and a third is the notes in the quarter. So these notes are have the volume all the way down, and that will go up as I release the notes. So it's kind of a cool effect going from one note to 3. Another important part of this patch is the pitch going downward. and I'm using the very same kind of envelope, a SUS-RLSJUMP, so that the pitch holds until I release, and then it dies down, drops down a bit. In this patch, I'm doing something similar. I wanted a glitchy element to the release, so I drew in these curves and made this envelope sort of glitchy, but it is a regular envelope. I did not use the SUS-RLSJUMP envelope here. However, I am activating this mod envelope 1 with mod envelope 2, which is a SUS-RLSJUMP envelope, off here, on here. So it activates when I release the keys, and it's activating mod envelope 1. It's also activating 2 notes in the quarter, so the volume will jump up once I release the keys. And it's also activating the pitch envelope. The pitch envelope moves down by steps, but is only activated upon the release of the keys. So my examples were a little bit cheesy sounding, but there's nothing wrong with cheese. I feel like this is a very cool technique for sound design and for patch design. Avenger has all kinds of effects that can be loaded into either the sustain or the release part of the ADSR. And each of those effects have tons of presets, so there's a lot to be creative with. It's also just a practical tool. For example, if you want to use a delay but don't want it starting while you're holding down the notes, you can get a cleaner sound by using this type of modulation envelope. It provides a distinct division between the original signal and the delay, so the two won't overlap. So here I have a bass sound with a quantum effects delay on it that is activated upon release. So I had the delay come in gradually, but you still get a nice clean tail on that. All right, thanks for watching.